And want to say that I'm happy that you've chosen to join us for this next hour. I want to thank you for being here, Leaders of Learning. Our topic's about being trauma-sensitive professionals and resilient educators. I want to thank Jen Hagerman and Des Arnold. They're gonna, this whole technology piece for me is still a pretty heavy lift and anxiety producing. So they have graciously agreed to co-pilot with me. Jen is also our newbie with Christina and I on the behavior side of things. So and we've all had a little hiatus, but it's just so beautiful to see you, Jen. Thanks so much. Just moving on to the next slide. Brilliant. So again, my name is Phyllis Brown. I'm a staff developer and a positivity strategist here at the Lincoln Intermediate Unit. I focus my time, talent, energy, and passion around culture and climate building. I'm presently a certified PBIS and appreciative inquiry facilitator, as well as a certified appreciative leadership coach. And Corinne Connor and I recently became licensed as restorative practices trainers, utilizing my servant heart to support administrators, individuals, teams, classrooms, schools, and districts to bring out the best in themselves and the best in each other. I believe the Lord laid it on my heart decades ago to be a positive agent of change, feeling so blessed to have the opportunity to be together, raising the praise for trauma-sensitive and resilient educators. So we do have some norms, and Tanya went over them this morning. Again, you can feel free to unmute. There's going to be opportunities for engagement. Anyone who's been in the room with me before, hugs, right? That's my virtual hug now. So I am missing your energy and being in the room with you. So if you choose to show us your video, that would be grand if you're able to. Feel free to use the chat function. I'll just ask Jen to help me a bit, just having a look at that. So thank you. The next slide is about the reminder for your Act 48 being awarded your Act 48 credits, and all that good stuff is due by July 31st. So we're going to jump in with both feet with an activity. I call this one Protect to Connect. So I've just really enjoyed Kathleen Lane here today. I hope you all have as well. And she is very clear to share with us that we need to meet children where they are. We need to meet families where they are. We need to meet communities where they are. So we're all kind of stuck in that amygdala. We're going to take a little look at the brain of the science here in a few slides. So that's kind of, the emotion center. And we want to kind of protect that. And we want to get people to that prefrontal lobe cortex so we can start to connect to all of our good executive functioning skills. So our check-in today, and again, these relational rituals are going to be so important as we bring littles back. How are you checking in? How are you checking out with them? So here's our first activity. This is called your quarantine name check-in. So your first name is your mood or a feeling that you're having right now. Your last name is the last thing you ate. And then could you please just tell us where you're from? So your quarantine name, you're putting that in the chat. Your first name is a mood or a feeling you're having right now. We've got a calm egg sandwich. I like it. An antsy chocolate. Oh my gosh, I got to get you up moving around. Look at that. Joyful brisket beans. A sleepy quesadilla. Hopefully I'll keep you awake. A tired, kind bar in Waynesboro. We got a happy taco from Dr. Steph. I like it. Gettysburg, relaxed zucchini. Positive apple in Lancaster. Oh, we got a tired wrap in York. Sleepy popcorn from Dauphin. Thank you so much. So appreciate your willingness to participate. Oh, we got someone stressed. a sleepy turkey sandwich, tired grilled cheese. That sounds good these days. Summer, that's always a good summer. So thank you so much. I appreciate that. So we're working on, oh, we have a grumpy English muffin out there. So right now, my friends, we've got to keep our sense of humor too, don't we? So we'll have a look at our possible positive outcomes. So this is our end in mind. So what my hope is that I leave you better than I found you today. This is always one of my, I have a meditation and prayer practice that I do every morning. And so whenever I'm going to be in front of a group, I always ask God to help me leave you better than I found you. So just maybe putting a new lens on trauma sensitivity. We're going to do a little peek into the science of trauma, explore how you can be your best resilient self, and then recognizing that resilience is a practice, right? It's a strength for us to be healthier and happier. So that's our end in mind. So we'll start, we'll jump in with both feet here. The continuum of trauma. We have that, we have acute trauma, that single time, a limited event, could be an accident, sexual or physical assault, school shooting, natural disaster. We have our chronic trauma. This is multiple recurring, long-lasting traumatic exposure events. Again, COVID, we're all very weary of COVID, right? We're all feeling some compassion fatigue right now, some chronic trauma. This can also be prolonged physical, sexual, or mental abuse, homelessness, domestic violence, neglect. I mean, the fact that Dr. Lane said 41 million people in poverty, job loss, there's a lot of grief and loss right now. And we have our complex trauma, experiences multiple traumatic events that impact our brains. So as we're looking at the continuum, we'll go to the next slide. So toxic stress, you know, some of our littles may be experiencing, maybe some of us are experiencing some of that toxic stress. And these adverse experiences create those strong, frequent, or prolonged activation to the body's whole stress response system. So, so again, knowing where you are on the continuum, this is the secondary or vicarious trauma. So this is trauma, this is exposure to the trauma of others by providers. This is some of that compassion fatigue. It could be towards your littles if, again, you're knowing some of the circumstances that are happening for them. This could be vicarious trauma with your family members. Spoke to those of us who have older parents that we have, you know, real concerns about. It could be our partners, our friends, anyone in close contact with anyone who's traumatized. So, so when we look at adverse childhood experiences, this goes to the work that the CDC and Kaiser Permanente did with Nadine Burke-Harris, The Deepest Well. So before COVID, part of the research showed that you had four students out of 30 in your classroom who had an ACEs score of 4 or more. Now everyone coming, as we're looking at re-entry back into school, we all have an ACEs score now. Right? We all have at least one for sure. So again, important for us to be very mindful of how our littles are returning to us. So again, children are more vulnerable to ACEs and that toxic stress, right? So let's start to look at the brain, how fear and anxiety affect the brain. We see that prefrontal cortex in the front, and there's that amygdala. That's where the emotional responses come from. And then the hippocampus really tells the amygdala kind of what events are happening. But good to know that, again, hippocampus, short-term memory, connects that emotion to the fear, that amygdala. You know, if we're stuck in that limbic system, you know, what kind of things can we do to help littles regulate, emotionally regulate? And our hope is to really protect, connect, get to that prefrontal lobe cortex where they can access their executive functioning skills. So we can look at a model, the hand model in the brain. If you take your hand and put your thumb in front there and close it, right? So this is the brain stem. If we're stuck in the brain stem, this is all about breath, right? This is all about breathing. This is mindfulness. If we have a little stuck there, it's been triggered in some way, fight, flight, or freeze, that's where they're going back to. They're going back to the brain stem. So what happens is there's been some trigger, right? So we flip our lid, and now no longer, if this is the prefrontal lobe cortex, this is our logic center, this is the limbic region where that hippocampus and amygdala are, no one's talking to each other, right? So again, it's really important for us to be able to ask ourselves, is this child's brain working in harmony right now, right? I mean, again, are there internalizing behaviors or are there externalizing behaviors that really are, that we can look at brain science? Are we really asking something of the child that they just can't do right now, right? And again, taking a look at how stress affects the body. These are the long-term effects. And you, in terms of where you are right now, you may also look at how is stress affecting your body. So when we look at having more of a trauma lens, we want to, when we look at what happens in the brain, the fight, flight, or freeze, we took this information from a book called Fostering Resilient Learners. And they provided examples of what fight, flight, and freeze look like in the classroom. So let's look at some behaviors that you might not have typically attributed to a trigger response, a trauma response from a little. How about the skipping of classes? Oh, there we have, yeah. So there's the flight piece. And you might think about, what does flight look like in our COVID world, right? So students not even showing up for Zoom sessions. Beautiful. So let's go to flight. There we go. Fight, there's fight. You know, again, invite you to take a look at some examples. For me, the one that is interesting is the acting silly, right? Do you ever think that that may be a reaction to a trigger? And then we have freeze. And again, how about refusing to answer? Do we see that as trauma or do we see that as defiance? So I've done a little reading in terms of what psychiatrists and psychologists are seeing in the littles. And part of what they're sharing is, so students who typically are challenged with anxiety, school phobia, the beginning of this, they were actually doing better, right? Because it took the layer of school off of it. But what they're finding with our littles who are most challenged with anxiety, fear, the school phobia part, they're developing some very challenging OCD symptoms. So that's something when we're looking at our littles as they're coming back with a trauma lens, psychiatrists and psychologists want us to to note that there is an increase in those OCD behaviors, and that, again, the littles are trying to control what they can control. And sometimes those kind of obsessive compulsive rituals can take a long time. So it can really look like a child is freezing and just being non-compliant. So rethinking, here's your chance to shift, put on those new lenses. So again, anything surprise you there? What does being trauma sensitive look like, sound like, and feel like? Might you be thinking about using more affective statements? When I see that blank look on your face, it concerns me. I'm worried about you. Affective questions. What feedback might you provide? So again, looking at risk factors, we're just gonna, factors that put children at risk. We'll move on to the next one. Thank you. More risk factors for negative reactions to traumatic events. And I think the next one might be about observations. Oh, here's factors that protect our littles and our youth, for sure. What kind of things can you provide? So here's some characteristics of those trauma-impacted youth. Empathy is going to be really difficult. That chronic irritability, anxiety. Boy, how many of these characteristics are you seeing in yourself right now? So here's the observations. Again, as you have a new lens on this work, becoming more trauma sensitive. Here's some observations that I invite you to be open to seeing. How might they be over or under reacting to environmental stimuli in a Zoom, right? You know, when people all kind of try to start talking, it's hard. You know, that's difficult for adults. So what you might see in a trauma-impacted child, what you might observe. So that defiance, right? That's fear, that's anxiety, that's anger. What's anger? Hurt, fear, frustration. And then again, threats from adults to impel any kind of compliance. That's going to make these littles feel more anxious, more threatened, more out of control. Withdrawal. That's okay. I was just going to say, thanks, Jen. Again, withdrawal, that's a conscious response too, right? To anxiety, fear, depression. Think about all the grief and loss, all the disappointment. This is their lack of continuity between thoughts, memories, surroundings, actions, identity, a disassociative response. Like that would be a huge worry for me as a clinician. So if you're observing any of that, just that perfectionism. So that's all good. Let's go to the, this is a slide about the essential. You want to be looking at also a trauma sensitive system. So this is that culturally responsive and inclusive piece that Dr. Lane has referred to today. Your own self-care, that's exactly why you're here. to take a look at your best self, your best resilient self. Collaboration is key right now. What are your resources? Where's your safety net? And again, I'd invite you to think about, what are you already doing that is about being a trauma-sensitive professional? What are some things that are already part of your practice? What's one thing you can think, feel, say, or do to be more trauma-sensitive? So the next slide gives us, again, a little bit more insight into being trauma sensitive. For me, what stands out is every interaction matters, right? The words we use matter. Our words make worlds. So every interaction matters. Every conversation, you make a choice to drain life or give life. Choose wisely, my friends. Choose wisely. Reflect on your own behavior. We can't change something we don't recognize. So any questions? We're going to move into resiliency. Any questions about the trauma piece? There's a place you can you can put your hand up too if you want, that participant button. There's a place to put your hand up. I know sometimes it's hard to type fast too. You could always, God love us, there's only 18 of us. So if you want to unmute and ask a question, I'd so welcome that. Did I say I miss being in a room with you guys yet? So resiliency, we are, again, this capacity, my friends, of human beings to adapt well in the face of adversity, trauma, tragedy, threats, significant sources of stress. Can we say COVID, right? So, so this is Rick Hanson, Dr. Hanson's book's called Resilient. I love it. Love it, love it, love it. Gonna do it as a PLC, a book study with the counselors from Act 89. So I'm just so thrilled about that. So that would be one of your go-tos. Dr. Hanson is a neuropsychologist. His trademark blend of neuroscience, mindfulness, and positive psych, and just a really good read. Thanks, Jen. So community building, this is a tier 1. This is part of circles with restorative practices. And so we really want to think about, as we're building resiliency, again, this idea of building a safety net. Just because we have to be physically distanced doesn't mean we have to be socially distant, right? Like in terms of your resiliency, what are you doing to reach out? What are you doing to continue to build community, build your community? And then with your littles, we'll go on to the next slide. Again, this idea of community is a place in which students feel cared about, encouraged to care about each other. They have come to think in the plural, they feel connected to each other. That's what we're looking for. They're part of an us as we come back together again. The sense of belonging, the sense of connectedness, no matter care, my acronym for care, consistent, accountable, respectful, enthusiastic. Nothing great was ever accomplished without enthusiasm. So what could it look like as you are, whatever your situation is with learning on, how can you continue to help littles and your colleagues feel more connected and that sense of belonging? Thank you. So resilience, it is a practice. It doesn't get easier or more forgiving. We get stronger and more resilient. So years ago, interestingly enough, you know, when you've been around 3 decades, they used to say people were resilient or they're not. Not true. Definitely resilience is something that can be taught, and it is a practice. So we are going to talk more about that. Resiliency as a practice. So again, the idea of this finding that individual path forward, having the strength to withstand the certain circumstances. So I'm inviting you to come and share in the chat again. So when you think about other thoughts on what resilience is to you, would you put that in the chat, please? It could be a synonym even for resilience. Yes. Strength. I love it. Stronger than you know. Overcome. Ooh, I hear a song, Katie. It's grit. Oh, you got to love that word. Grit and optimism. You need to be saying that more, Diane. What's a synonym for resiliency for you? I love Duckworth. Being flexible, yes. Resilience is fear. That elasticity, able to spring back. My pop used to say, pick yourself up by your bootstraps, kick yourself in the tush, and just get on with it. So again, not how many times we get knocked down, it's how many times we get back. Can I get a thumbs up? That's right. That elasticity for sure. Thank you. Thank you for participating. I'm very grateful. So we'll move on to the next slide. So I want to talk a little bit about part of this practice is about building resilience through appreciative inquiry. So AI is actually a positive change process model. So it's a different perspective of impacting positive change. So you're having an image of how a situation ought to be, how we'd like it to be, focusing on the image of health and wholeness, an individual, an organization, a group, or a community's energy moves to make that image real. So what I'd like you to start to think about is where your focus goes, that's where your energy goes. Okay? So we'll talk a little bit more about AI. So again, it's this approach for positive change. It's effective, successful, it's connected in healthy ways. Again, what I'm calling you to really be open to is a new way of being, a new way of seeing, a new way of thinking, right? If we always do what we always did, we always get what we always got. So appreciative inquiry focuses on what's working. It's appreciative, right? So I'm inviting you to already think about a story that you were your best resilient self. Because again, that's how we're going to engage in this process. Asking questions, telling stories. Thank you. So appreciative resilience is actually built from the practice of appreciative inquiry. So, and through the research that Jeannie and Joan did, I'll show you their book in the next slide, this resilience is fostered from this place of maximizing the use of appreciative exploration. So when you are your best resilient self through the states of hope, despair, and forgiveness. So here's a visual image of appreciative resilience. You see that is in the center of things, the hope, despair, forgiveness, everything's connected. If you are so inclined, I've been a real steward of this for a couple of decades. David Cooperrider is the real guru of appreciative inquiry, and decades ago came out of the Teos Institute. So there's heaps being done around AI right now. There is a podcast there that the authors of the book did about appreciative leadership. So if you want to hear straight from the author's mouths, I just thought it'd be cool to kind of throw that one in there. So it's Dr. Jeannie Cockle and Dr. Joan MacArthur Blair. There's her book. And it focuses on that leaders' resiliency journals. But the process is still the same. It is the hope piece, which that allows us to be uplifted, right? Hopefulness. Despair, that place where circumstances leave us wondering how will we possibly move forward. So as you're thinking of your story of your best resilient self, please use an example where it was a glancing blow of despair. It wasn't despair that brought you to your knees. Again, I want to leave you better than I found you, and don't want to open up any wounds today. So be thinking about your story, but just a glancing blow of despair. The bedrock of this process, this practice, is forgiveness. Forgiveness of yourself, of others. You're going to be really focused, and your energy is going to go in seeing strengths and possibilities in the midst of challenges. I've always told my kids, how can we make this mess our message, right? So hope is the generative force. Hope is an intentional process. Excuse me. Hope will walk with us if we are purposefully hopeful. My acronym for hope, hang on, pandemics end. Right? So again, this belief, no matter what the state is at the moment, the future is open to all other positive possibilities. This work is generative. So I love this quote about hope, not a dream, but a way of making dreams become reality. So if we can dream it, we can be it. Thank you. So we start to have a think about what is the greatest strength in despair, right? When we have those glancing blows of despair, it's hard for us to see the path forward. Again, we're all in COVID, compassion, fatigue, and weariness. Again, outcomes cannot be seen, and doubts arise about, does anything really matter, right? Are we really going to get back in school? So here is the paradox with despair. So this is a huge opportunity to tap into our strengths. Out of bad things, good things happen. So the paradox, we can see what we truly believe in, what makes us strong, and how we can use our power most generatively. So forgiveness, again, forgiveness of ourselves and others. This is a powerful practice of resilience. And I know sometimes that forgiveness is not easy. So this is a shift. You're going to choose to give up resentment, anger, and fear, accepting things as they are, because we're going to be moving back to hope from despair. Again, or we can reside in whatever feeling we're having, reside in that despair with grace. Being able to deeply forgive, letting go of the things that are holding us back. We're looking forward, expecting positive change. We're being in the moment, we're being mindful, seeing strengths and possibilities in challenges. Forgiveness. The prisoner it frees is you. Beautiful, thank you. So with each act of forgiveness, whether small or great, we continue to move toward wholeness and being healthier. Asking for forgiveness and forgiving are at the heart of this practice. Forgiveness is the core to be able to move from despair into the possibility of hope. All right, so we're going to get ready to do an activity together. So I'd like to invite you to you can get like just a plain piece of paper, but you want something you're going to be able to fold, because we're going to make a little booklet, a little resiliency practice booklet. So something to write with if you want to use markers, or you have some color pencils, if you want to make it a little more attractive looking. So just give you a minute to gather your paper and your writing. Just give me a thumbs up on the reaction there that you're good to go. Beautiful. So we're thinking about, again, we're turning our wounds into wisdom. You're thinking about a story of resilience in your life. And what or who enabled that strength? What are some of the things you do to be resilient? What's working right now in your life? What strengths do you exercise in that story? So we'll move on to the next slide. Thank you. So here's our Appreciative Resiliency Plan activity. So the model of AI is this 4D process, right? Discovery, dream, design, and destiny. So you've gotten a piece of paper, you folded it, and the first part is discovery. So you're thinking of your story that best illustrates you as your best resilient self. So you're going to write some themes from that story. What do you value about yourself and others in your stories? What are some wishes you might have for living your best resilient self? How have you seen yourself do that through the last 4 or 5 months? What strikes you about your best resilient self? So you should be writing some themes down. I'll give you a minute or two. I just want to check the time. Good. So when I think about my story, the themes that have emerged for me is I control what I can control. My positive self-talk. Friends, if you don't talk to yourself will talk to you. For me, let go, let God has been a real theme for me these past months. And my other wish for myself is that I believe big and pray bold. So you're going to open your page. You're going to go to the one on the inside of discovery, and this is your dream. So what I'd like you to think about as you're creating your practice here, this is a visual image illustrating your key themes from your story. So you could also write your image in words as a newspaper headline or a bumper sticker. That's 60-something friendly. For our young folks with us today, you talk about your hashtag, right? Oh, God love you, Katie. So again, you're thinking about the dream state. You're going to draw an image or you're going to write words. What would your hashtag be? Your best resilient self. You want to look at words that are bold, that provoke action from you. Draw your image or write your image in words. So I drew a heart and it just says pray. Would anyone like to share their hashtag or their bumper sticker or their newspaper headline? Want to throw it in the chat there? Oh, the prompt was to come up with, you're on the dream piece of your resiliency plan. So when you look at your best resilient self, Jen has a hand pushing to keep just pushing through. Brilliant. I love it. You want to make that image bold for yourself. You want to start seeing that image for yourself or those words. It's a megaphone with hashtag encourage exclamation point. Thanks, Katie. I love it. Again, if we were in a room together, we'd be sharing in a big way right now. Beautiful. So when you go to the design piece, that's on the next side. So design, what are some action steps? How will you make this future happen? What's one thing you can do? So my design piece, again, I believe success comes in cans. What can I do to be more resilient or to practice resiliency? For me, it's my daily meditation and prayer time. I gather all my prayer sister warriors together. And then for me, water. Water is just life-giving, you know, being able to be out in the lake in my canoe, being able to take a swim. So your design piece, what's one action step you can do? And then destiny, your delivery. Let's celebrate, my friends, celebrate. Trust in the powerful you. So if you looked around your desk right now or the room that you're in, is there something tangible? This is a little bit of a scavenger hunt. Is there something tangible that you could zoom it? You could show us in Zoom right now that illustrates your best resilient self? Is there some prop nearby you?
I have one, Phyllis.
Let me see it, Diane.
So the way that I manage everything is I use these like notebooks. So this is my upcoming school year notebook. It says, make it happen.
Firecracker Diane. That's what we're talking about. I love it. You won't look at that notebook. You won't look at that notebook the same anymore, will you? Right? That speaks to your destiny for resiliency. You're trusting the powerful you. Beautiful. Round of applause for that one. Thank you for sharing. I love it. I love it. Does anyone else want to share? All right, nicely done. I know my time is, I want to try to get through here. We're going to go to the next slide. So when you think about your best resilient self, please consider mindfulness. Listen, this is evidence-based strategy. We should be teaching our littles mindfulness. This should be a social emotional skill like on the front burner for all of us right now. So the cool thing I read the other day was that just the act of wishing someone well will increase your serotonin levels. You don't even need to know the person. So just being mindful in the moment, wishing someone well, like listen, how powerful is that? So mindfulness, so important. The next slide, it's an easy, quick way to bring us right here, right now. I like to use it with littles, but I use it with my grandkids. So just again, that practice of just being able to be right here, right now. So this idea, and again, if we had a little bit more time, we could do this activity together. But this idea of just being in the moment, the 5 things you see, 4 things you feel, 3 things you hear, 2 things you smell, and 1 thing you taste. So you probably could have just done it. I definitely want to get to Dr. Hanson's letting go and let be, let go, let in. In his book Resilient kind of speaks to this even more. But again, first you can be with what's there. So let be gives yourself permission to feel. Feelings aren't good or bad, right or wrong, they just are. So sometimes, again, how do we just, if despair is where we need to be, how can we be in this glancing glow of despair with grace? How can we walk with grace? Again, just giving ourselves permission to feel. The let go, this decreases negativity, right? Whatever is painful or harmful, prevent it, reduce it, or end it. Let it go, right? Prevent it, reduce it, or end it. One option here would be able to vent feelings to a friend. Step away from your own self-critical thoughts. Ain't nobody got time for that. This is about raising the praise. And then focusing on letting in. So let in increases the positivity. Whatever is enjoyable, J-O-Y, what brought me joy today, or beneficial, this resiliency practice is an opportunity for you to create, grow, or preserve it. Grow an inner resource, such as self-compassion. So I love this metaphor. Imagine that your mind is a garden. You can tend to it in 3 ways. Observe it, let be. Pull weeds, let go. Plant flowers, my friends. Plant flowers, let in. Thank you. So this is just another mindfulness activity I like. It's the 5-finger breathing. So, and we want to really take big, deep breaths with this good work. Calm and focused in the present moment for any age. So I take my hand and I separate my fingers. And certainly you can do it with me if you want. And I take my pointer finger and actually for my 2.5-year-old grandson, this is his favorite way to stay calm. Do star Mimi, do star Mimi. So here we go, we're gonna do star. You're gonna breathe in, breathe out. Mouth, nose, breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, inhale love, exhale gratitude. Inhale love, exhale gratitude. Inhale love, exhale gratitude. Big breath out, like you're gonna fog up a mirror. You want big, big breaths. So that's one of my fave. If you want to go back the other way, I've been known to do it a couple of times. I'm just going to say, I'm not going to lie. That is definitely one of my favorites. 5-finger breathing. Gratitude. Another evidence-based strategy for resilience. How many people keep a gratitude journal? Anybody do that? So that would be something that I'd really encourage you to do. Did you know that anger and gratitude cannot coexist? So in the chat, put something you're grateful for that you would have not thought about pre-COVID. You would not have thought about before COVID. something you're grateful for that you would not have thought about. I see people typing. Zoom check-ins with colleagues. I love it. FaceTime. I know. I'm doing it all the time now. Your families. Look at that. Wow. So again, like think about how, the silver linings. Yes. It's about people, right? It's about us reconnecting to people. This is all about relationships. Beautiful. Yes. Just being able to be still, right? Yeah, my prayer life has been just unbelievable. Beautiful. So we're coming on like 2:20 here. So just appreciate again all your participation. Because listen, the behavior we pay attention to is the one that's going to increase, right? Just like with our littles, it happens for us too. So being able to pay attention, like when I was talking to my kids and grandkids about like, how do we make this mess our message? And what I shared with them is I've really done a lot of reflecting on that myself. And I just don't want to ever take anything for granted again. Like I just want to be just in a state of gratefulness. So the other, when we look at a healthy resiliency practice, optimism, right? Perpetual optimism is a force multiplier. Is your glass half full or is it half empty? So positivepsych.com has a lot of cool stuff on it right now. There's a .org called The Pursuit of Happiness. So how can you, again, sort of flood yourself? Here's transitory nature of feelings. Again, it's this idea that impermanence, right? We aren't going to feel that feeling for more than 90 seconds, right? So being able to just kind of withstand the storm. For every winter, there's a spring. We'll move on because I definitely want to get to, here's that secondary trauma piece. So again, if you're seeing some symptoms for you, this is part of what's going on for you, that compassion fatigue for sure. That's secondary trauma. So we'll move on. This is, yes, what's changed. Have things changed for you in your work? Or again, the COVID piece of things. Are you finding that you're skipping meals? You're not sleeping as well, right? So again, we want to show ourselves kindness. What is some kindness you could show yourself today, right? You become kinder to yourself, we become kinder to the world. I would ask you to tell me, but definitely wanted to get to this self-care plan. So this idea of routines, plans for self-care are critical, right? When you are the most well you can be, my friends, those 6 domains, what are you doing physically? What's your emotional well-being? Socially, spiritually, right? So again, I would encourage you to have a self-care plan. So reducing stress, the 3 R's. Again, teachers can use these 3 R's. Effective strategies for taking care of yourself: reflection, regulation, relaxation, right? We cannot change something we don't recognize. Here are the benefits of relaxation, the benefits of reducing stress. What could those 3 R's do for you? produce more positive feelings, boost your confidence, increase self-esteem, enhance motivation, improve your mood, having more energy, being more productive and organized. Your needs are important. You are role modeling for everyone what it looks like, sounds like, and feels like to take good care of yourselves, right? If you want to give light to others, you have to glow yourself, my friends, right? It's the whole airplane air mask, oxygen mask. So we whipped through those, the ending ones, because I wanted to be sure I had at least a little bit of time to, at the end here, to check in with everybody. So, and certainly we can feel free to, is there any way to show the gallery view of everybody, Jen? I don't know how many people's.
Are you, if I'm done with it, if you're done with your slides, I can take off my screen sharing and we'll see everybody. Do you want to do that?
Oh, no, we have to show them the other slides though. Okay, no worries. So I'm happy if you would be so kind to unmute yourselves. But when you think about your wishes, your hopes, your dreams, somebody be brave enough to share. I thought if you could see each other, sometimes it helps. I am seeing some sweet faces there.
Mm-hmm.
Are you talking in terms of our students? Like at
No, you, my love. You.
Oh, okay.
Your wishes, your hopes, your dreams. This is your resiliency practice.
I wish to be able to bounce back from situations and go with the ebbs and flows of life. Because sometimes I see, you know, in others that can be a very difficult thing to do.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing. What are your wishes, hopes, and dreams for your students?
Mine personally, Phyllis, my wishes, hopes, and dreams at this point are the process of learning. I want to continue to learn with taking on this new position. When COVID happened, my first day on the job was the first day of closure. So I'm really hoping to get back to whatever this world of normal will look like and kind of continue learning and seeing where this, you know, road takes me.
Amen. Beautiful. One more.
For my students, I just wish and hope and dream for them that they don't have to live in trauma, which is kind of impossible sometimes, but I just think of that because, and I think of all the, you know, all of my students and what they've been through this year because, and if I'm speaking in terms of COVID, this has been something that's very challenging for our kids, you know, and I've been talking to therapists and in the field, and their concern is that there's going to be more of an element of trauma when we go back to school face to face. And I'm ready and raring to go so I can help them with that.
Amen. Beautiful. Well, I wish you all the best. And definitely thanks for your time and attention this afternoon. I've appreciated you being with us and participating. Here's some trauma-informed resources. And then there is just a reminder about the evaluation for you to be able to get your Act 48 credits. And that's a link back to the, there's our mission. That's a link back to the matrix. Just invite you, my friends, stay in faith, stay safe, and be well. Grace, mercy, peace, and love. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Phyllis. Fabulous job.
Back at you, my love. Thank you, Jen.
Yep, I'm going to stop your recording now, okay?
Brilliant. Thank you. Thanks for really taking good care.